Hey there, coming up on Smart Tech Today, I am joined by Dan Morin today, and we've got a lot of smart news to talk about. First, Sonos has some plans for improving its environmental track record. Then we talk about how to protect your holiday surprises from Alexa before it spoils them for you. Then Meta actually opening up Horizon Worlds to more people, DARPA's latest investment with drones, plus so much more. We've got a lot to cover, so stay tuned for Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by BetterHelp. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/STT. And by userway.org. Userway ensures your website is accessible, ADA compliant, and helps your business avoid accessibility-related lawsuits. The perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. It's not only the right thing to do, it's also the law. Go to userway.org/twit for 30% off Userway's AI-powered accessibility solution. Hello and welcome to Smart Tech Today, the show where we explain the exciting, dynamic, and, well, let's face it, sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent, and I am joined today by a regular on the show. It's Dan Morin. Welcome back, Dan.
Thanks for having me again, Mike. It's good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you here. So we've got a lot to talk about today, so I just want to get right into it. And today I want to start by talking about Sonos. So Sonos is, of course, the smart speaker maker. And I say smart this time just to mean that they have internet-connected speakers that can work together to stream music throughout your entire home if you like, or just from one. They're premium in terms of sound quality, which is always great. And they're rather popular. There are a lot of people who have Sonos devices. Well, Sonos kind of got into a bit of trouble with its customers when it started to phase out the older version of its Sonos speakers. And it was this kind of wild thing where they were phasing these out and they said, hey, you can send them into us and sort of get a little bit of a money back to purchase a new one. So we need you to put them into recycle mode and then send them in, and then you can get a new one. Well, when you put them into recycle mode, they were bricked. You could not make use of them anymore. So they basically, at that point, you were required to send them in. So people were kind of quickly going, don't put it into recycle mode just in case you want to keep them. And it became this whole kind of ridiculous thing. Unfortunately, that did result in some issues of confidence with customers, which is understandable. And from that point, there came this conversation surrounding Sonos and whether or not it was responsibly kind of handling how it moved on to new products, how it left older products in the past, and what it could do to go forward. So Sonos is kind of saying, hey, look, we're joining this increasing group of companies that is saying we're paying attention to the environment. We're paying attention to our impact on the environment, and this is what we plan to do. So it says it wants its value chain to be, that's its kind of chain of...
It's buzzword. Very buzzword.
It's a very buzzword.
Chain of value, sure.
Carbon neutral by 2030, and then net zero emissions by 2040. It says that all of Sonos's new products will use recycled plastic by the end of 2023, and all hardware is going to use responsibly sourced paper packaging by 2025. So does that mean that it's irresponsibly sourced paper packaging right now and up until 2025?
Probably,
yeah, I would like to know what that means. It's also planning on trying to recycle things when it can, and make devices easier to take apart. So, instead of using glue, it will try to use fasteners. And also, they want to give all of the devices what's called sleep mode so that they will draw far less power starting in 2022. So lots of different changes that are slowly working their way. And Sonos is putting out a note to say, hey, here are all the things that are happening. But we don't really have any information about its sort of ongoing planned obsolescence practices that it has had. So it'll be interesting to see if it continues that strange thing where it's like, yeah, this device is at its end of life, so send it to us, and don't, you won't be able to use it after you put it.
I think they got rid of the recycle mode, as I believe that was so unpopular. That last year, I believe they sort of decided we shouldn't do that anymore. But like you said, it didn't really instill a lot of confidence. It frustrated a lot of customers, and it felt very, very wasteful because it meant like a whole product that could have been, sold or reused or moved somewhere else in your house. And instead it had to be sent back. You didn't really have an option. And I mean, yeah, I understand why they're saying like, hey, get a discount for turning in your old speaker, but you shouldn't. Enforcing that feels like unnecessary, basically. So I'm glad. I'm a big Sonos fan. I have several of their products. I'm glad to see them being a little more proactive in this department, as all tech companies should be. But I will say, actually, aside from the fact that Sonos did have a sort of switch over a couple of years ago to a new version of its software, which didn't work with some previous products, I think they're pretty good. I think their speakers tend to be pretty long lasting. Like I've got some Play Ones, which I think I was just talking about the other day. It came out in 2013, and I recently repurposed them as the surround speakers in my living room, and they're great. I mean, they're coming up on a decade, and they still sound amazing, and they still work just fine. Good.
I mean, that was kind of, I had a feeling, or rather I remembered that you talked about you being a Sonos user, and my co-host Matthew Casanelli is also a fan of Sonos, and I have never used the devices or had them myself, and that whole thing, that whole recycle mode and all of that, the moving on to the next line of products really kind of obviously rubbed me the wrong way. I was not fond of that change. But it is good that, we're seeing more and more companies really putting forth what they are planning to do, what they, have committed to do going forward with this environmental impact, trying to make sure that they are being responsible. And as more tech companies kind of jump on board, even more than they ever have, and big ones, are jumping on board, then the smaller ones can be part of that process, and it can kind of keep rolling along. So that is a good one. Now, this next story is a bit of tech support. I actually talked about it on Tech News Weekly earlier today, but this show is particularly a great place to talk about it, because we talk all about smart home devices all the time. And many folks, I would imagine, over the course of this year and years past, have received Alexa-enabled devices. They could be Echoes, they could be other displays, smart displays. And one of the things that people have to be aware of is that your smart device can end up ruining a holiday surprise for you, or maybe a birthday surprise. It could be whatever. But given that Alexa is tied into your Amazon account, if you're making orders on Amazon, it has the ability to announce when a package is going to be arriving, when it's delivered, if there's a holdup. And I believe it's by default, it will. The only reason I say that is because I have mine turned off, so we'll see. But I believe it's by default turned on, that it will say, this product, and then the title of the product is set to arrive today or tomorrow. And then that can show up on your smart display. It could also actually be said out loud. That's a whole issue that you might be facing this holiday season. So Android Central put together a guide, but I'm just going to walk you through the steps here. So if you launch the Alexa app and you tap the More button down in the bottom right corner, and then you look for the settings icon, it'll obviously say settings, and to the left will be a little gear. And then you choose notifications, and then you choose Amazon Shopping. From there, you will see the first item. It says, let Alexa say or show titles for items you've ordered. What you want to do is toggle the options in this off. You can see that I have one turned on. That is for items in return updates, because that lets me know if I forget, which is often the case. If I do have a return on the rare occasion that I do, I will forget up until the day that I need to return it. And so this says, hey, you goofball, you haven't made that return yet. So then I remember and can get it into the mail. The ones that you want to make sure are definitely off is for items in delivery updates. So that way the title will not be said, your order of a diamond ring is set to deliver today. Oh no, now my partner knows I'm proposing. What have I thought? I guess now ALEXA is the one proposing. Great. This is a lovely story that we get to tell our future.
I did actually use my Echo as part of my proposal plan, but that's a story for another time.
That will have to be a story for another time, and it sounds like that was on purpose, not by accident.
Yes, that is true. I did not do it by accident. It was a plan.
So that is something to be aware of. Again, very easy to turn off in the settings as you would like. And then I was curious, Dan, do you have delivery notifications for you? Because I know you have some Amazon devices in your home. Has this ever been an issue for you, or did you kind of have that turned off pretty quickly?
I do, and I had package delivery notifications turned on for a long time, but we've disconnected the Echo when we moved houses to go all in on Siri and HomePod, so no longer an issue. But I do occasionally miss. I now get like notifications from UPS or Amazon, obviously, like to my phone when they're delivering something, which is fine. I actually don't need the notification system on the Echo as much. I don't miss it terribly because, there was a lot of chance of it accidentally alerting somebody when you had bought them something and would rather keep it a secret.
Yeah, exactly. I almost had it ruin things for me at one point. And so that is when I ended up turning it off. But I think, as I said, some people may have gotten these as gifts and didn't know that there's a way, especially if you've got a full household. This is a good thing to know to make sure that everything gets shut off. So that's how you go about doing that and making sure that your device is ready to go. The next one I wanted to talk about is I felt like this was kind of close to your heart because I know that, obviously you're an author. And so for that reason, you like books. Then you also have librarian parents, which means you also like books. True. And then you also have experimented with e-readers other than the very popular e-reader that a lot of people have heard of, which is the Kindle. And so I wanted to talk about Kobo's Elipsa and Sage e-readers. These e-readers are interesting in that they also offer writing functionality. So not only do they work as standard e-readers, but you can use a stylus to write on them. The 10.3-inch document-sized Elipsa is $399.99, and the Sage e-reader is $259.99. So the Elipsa and the Sage, these are reviews from The Verge, and the smaller one actually got a higher rating of 7.5, with the larger one getting a 7. And this is an interesting kind of take on things because when I have physical books, I am one of those. To some people, these people, my people, are monsters in that I like writing in my books. I like to highlight things and underline things and make notes. And in fact, in high school, we call that active reading. And we had to do a certain level of active reading each month that the teacher would then go through and check to make sure that we had actually actively read. So
that would have been bad for me.
It is instilled in me to highlight, write, and note all in books. And I love when I get a book from, I do this very rarely these days, but you get a book from a bookstore or like sometimes it's not going to be a brand new bookstore, but a used bookstore.
Yeah.
And you get to come across the notes that others have made. That's so much fun. It's like a book and a book within a book. Anyway, so I'm a big fan of being able to make notations, particularly in nonfiction stuff. So this kind of idea is really interesting to me. And I actually currently have, and I can't think of what it's called now. Maybe, Kevin, you might remember I just showed it off a couple of episodes ago. But anyway, it's Remarkable. Yeah, that's it. The Remarkable tablet. So it's a lot like this. But The Verge said that the writing on these devices is not as good as kind of the writing on the Remarkable, which is a more focused drawing, writing tablet versus these, which are kind of book first. But yeah, I'm curious kind of your thoughts on these two, and also just non-Kindle ebooks, because is it hard to get books for these, or do you find that publishers end up releasing to these places as well, not just Amazon?
So, I mean, specifically stuff like the Kobo. I think the Kobo is pretty well supported. It's, backed by a large store. There's a lot of options for buying stuff. Most of the big titles, I think, that you can find on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, you'll also have the option of finding on Kobo. I think what makes the Kobo, one of the things that makes the Kobo platform better than Amazon in some ways is the library experience, because though you can get ebooks on your Kindle, and it's not the worst experience in the world, like it involves a couple of clicks and stuff if you're using the Libby app, for example, on the iPhone, which ties into libraries. But the Kobo, I guess the parent company of Kobo used to be the parent company of Overdrive, which is the big company that essentially does digital library loans. And so there's very tight integration there, including you can go onto your Kobo and actually look at like your holds and browse your library and stuff from the Kobo itself, which you can't do on your Kindle. So I think that's one of the big advantages that Kobo has going for it, is this library integration is really good. I also have found the typography on the Kobo, for whatever reason, is better than on the Kindle. And I've even I actually just bought one of the new Paperwhites the other week for my wife for her birthday. And we ended up in a situation where I was using it last weekend and she was using my Kindle because of the books that we were currently reading. And I was like, it got better. The new Paperwhite's pretty good, but I still felt like my Kobo is just a better reading experience. It feels more book-like for some reason. I have no idea why. I think that the Kobo Libra especially, which is their slightly lower end model, which actually has physical page turn buttons, which you need to go all the way up to the Kindle Oasis for, is a better value in many ways. And it features a lot of the same stuff that the Paperwhite has. So for around like a little bit more than the Paperwhite costs, or normally, I think it was on sale recently. So I'm a big fan of the Kobo Libra. I think I picked it on a previous episode that we discussed.
Sale on Amazon.
Yeah, ironically. And I will say that I like this idea of integrating sort of the ability to do note-taking. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum from you when it comes to that. I cannot write in books. I blamed my parents for this for years since they were librarians, and I feel like that was instilled in me. Like, you're defacing books. And then I blame them for it once to their face, and they're like, we never told you that. That is all you. It's like, all right.
That's hilarious.
But I like the idea of it. I mean, it's something that comes up a lot with the iPad too, right? Was like the ability to use the Apple Pencil and take notes and stuff. I've just always struggled with it because it's A, my handwriting is not great, and B, it's not the way that I read things. But I think the idea of it is really cool. And it seems like there are probably some shortcomings based on like the Verge's review in terms of the way that it handles some of this writing stuff. But if it seems like it's something that people are interested enough in, I assume they will keep working on it and improving it. And it looks cool, honestly. Like, I mean, there is something about the e-ink that feels a little more like an actual book, right, than like reading on an iPad. So absolutely. The idea of adding the ability to do note-taking, that, yeah, I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm not sure I'll run out and buy one, but I'm definitely intrigued.
Definitely. Man, physical page turn buttons would be nice, because I do use my Kindle, but I miss that, because my original Kindle, the Kindle keyboard from way back when, had those physical page turn buttons and free access to, I think it was AT&T, one of the wireless carriers.
Yeah. I think they just finally discontinued that.
Yep. I have the Kindle, and iFixit sells replacement batteries for it. I've had to replace it one time before, and I've got a battery to pop it in. It's just because that one there's such nostalgia. And then also, again, physical page turn buttons are so nice. So even though it doesn't have a backlight, that's the one thing that it's missing. But yeah, that's what I've got my other Kindle for. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break before we come back with more. I want to tell you about the very cool, the very awesome BetterHelp, who are bringing you this episode of Smart Tech Today. Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? What interferes with your happiness? Well, check out BetterHelp.com/STT. if you are looking to answer those questions. I got to check out BetterHelp, went to their site, signed up, and they ask you some questions about yourself. They ask you some questions that you may be familiar with if you've ever, had some help with mental health concerns and sort of similar things, anxiety, depression, those kinds of things. You may be familiar with some of the questions. They're the typical ones that you get asked during part of that process to see how how the process is going. But they also ask you some really good questions to kind of suss out your values, if you will, sort of the values that carry you through life. And so they'll ask you a little bit about your religiosity, if you will. They'll ask you about different concerns that you might have. And the reason they do that is because it helps you find a therapist, a licensed professional therapist who is right for you. And so you fill out all this information and you wait. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. Mine was even less than 48 hours. I think it was less than 24 hours. But you wait while therapists come along and they see your response and they go, oh, yeah, I definitely think I could help that person. I don't think I would be able to help that person. Probably not that person. But then the next therapist comes along and goes, oh, that person's right for me. That person's right for me. And then everybody kind of gets the right help for them. So my therapist reached out to me after she found me and kind of gave me an initial message. It had a lot of information about her and her therapy style and her values. And we met on video chat. And I kid you not, within the first few moments of speaking to her, she started talking about quantum entanglement, quantum physics, and the sort of emotional connection with our understanding of quantum physics. And I just thought, holy moly, I found exactly the right nerd for me. This is a person that I can't wait to hear more of what she has to say and get help from her. And she has been fantastic. So BetterHelp is going to assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. And it also lets you connect in a safe and private online environment. That makes it super convenient to do. It's not a crisis line and it's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. This is cool too. You can send a message to your counselor anytime. So I can log on and, if I've got something I want to ask about, send that message. And then the next time she's online, she can respond to it. You're going to get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule a weekly video or phone session, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. So yes, you don't have to stare at the strange wallpaper and cats that are climbing up tree branches. None of that. Instead, you can be in the comfort of your own home, and then you connect and can chat with your therapist. Or, as I said, message anytime. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. If you've ever used the more typical ways of finding a therapist, then you're probably familiar with that process. You're auditioning someone, and if the first person doesn't work for you, it can take forever to find a new one. This is not only free, but it's easy to find a new counselor if you need to. That makes it more affordable than traditional offline counseling. And by the way, financial aid is available. So if you're going, I don't think I'm going to be able to afford this, but I really could use it, check out the financial aid for more information. And the service is available for clients worldwide. And so you can find the particular expertise you need online, not having to limit yourself to the counselors located near you. You'll find licensed professional counselors who are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflicts, LGBTQ plus matters, grief, self-esteem, and anything you share is confidential, it's convenient, it's professional, and it's affordable. Check out the testimonials posted daily on the site. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. We want you to start living a happier life today. So as a listener, you can get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/STT. Join more than 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/STT. Thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. And let's head back to the show. Up next, I wanted to mention, I had talked a little bit on this show about Meta, which many people will know as Facebook, Meta's Horizon Worlds platform. So this was an invite-only platform that Meta announced at its VR event, where you could create your own worlds and also visit other people's worlds. I was able to get access early on to the invite-only portion to give this a try, and it was a lot of fun. So I hopped in. They walk you through the steps of creating your own world. You have like all of these 3D tools. You're zooming in, you're creating different structures, and you can add physics. It's got coding built in so that, as the character approaches this area, then play this sound, or they can only get through this area if they drop 3 items onto this space. All sorts of different coding stuff that lets you make these rooms very special. It was around Halloween whenever I was trying it out. So they had lots of Halloween themed rooms that different people in the metaverse had created. And I remember going into one, and it was kind of this maze. So you walked in, and you had to get through these different areas to finally get up to the roof, where you could get a weapon that you would then use to destroy the ghosts around the scene. And so it was a lot of fun.
Just like in the real life.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you do all the time. So that was a lot of fun. But now the announcement is that Meta has opened up access of Horizon Worlds to any adult person in the U.S. with, the proper hardware to do so. Now more people will be able to create worlds in Meta's Horizon Worlds, which will only add to that. They kind of started out, they had some like coding classes that you could go to and check out and learn more. And when I tried it out, there was a person from Facebook kind of on the community team who was teaching all of us different things. I just like happened to show up in one of these places where there was a person, and they were like, do you want to make confetti appear in the air? And I was like, of course I do. And so she walked us through the steps of doing that. And there were lots of different games. So I have really enjoyed my time in Horizon Worlds, and I'm glad it's open to more people, because just seeing the creativity that was there already was really exciting. But do you have any VR stuff? I can't remember how you feel about VR in general.
I don't have any VR stuff. I wish I did, actually. It's one thing that I'm interested in playing around with a bit more. And obviously, if Apple ends up getting into this game, which is they're heavily rumored to do next year, I will probably be investing in that. I've used some in the past. One of my friends actually worked at a VR gaming startup for a little while, and I got to try out their platform, which was kind of cool. But I have not really had a chance to spend a lot of time with it since I don't have my own hardware for it. It seems like one of those things that is becoming kind of the next big battleground for tech. And so I'm intrigued to see if it actually catches on this time. We've obviously been hearing about VR stuff for a long time. Certainly somebody with the resources of Meta. Meta, I got it right the first time. Backing something like this as a huge play means there's a lot of money and talent and energy going into this stuff. It seems clear that there's a will to make it happen. I think the biggest question is whether on the consumer end there is actually a desire for these kinds of experiences or not. It seems clear that there is some, want of it, but I don't know. I'm curious to see if it's something that ends up going beyond gaming, and whether it's something that has some stickiness to it, or whether it's just sort of a fad.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to find out. I have a feeling that it's going to start out kind of being this situation where you've got people who are very into it or partially into it that exist in that space, and then the people who just aren't that interested kind of outside of that space and going, I don't know. And then what's going to happen is either that group that's really into it's going to continue to get into it, it's going to grow, but it's going to it among that group, or it will be enough that people who are outside of it are like, I've got to get a Quest headset now.
It feels like the Second Life thing, right? When Second Life was a big thing, but it never really got beyond just sort of like a core group that was like, yeah, Second Life, it's the next big thing. I don't know. Also, I got to ask you, since you've actually used this, does the avatars not having legs thing freak you out? It freaks me out a little bit. I don't know if I like it.
No, and I don't know if it's just because I don't know why it doesn't freak me out. It never bothered me. But like normally when it comes to something like that, when it comes to anything, I am a type of person that needs to have some sort of logical explanation, at which point I can either accept it or go, I don't feel like that stacks up. The logical reason, or the logistical reason, is because these devices cannot capture the movement of your legs. And so this is again kind of what they were talking about, because soon the Oculus Quest 2, or not the Oculus Quest 2, but soon there will be Oculus devices that are capturing your facial features, or your facial movements, and your upper torso, because you have the controllers and your hands can move. But we don't have anything strapped to our feet right now, so they're just kind of kicking that out of the process since there's no reason. The other thing that they could do is, of course, animate a gait. But the fact is, every human being has a different gait, and so it would be weird, kind of odd if everybody walks the same. So I think they just said, you know what, let's just take that out of there. There's no thing. And then if you look at us, oh my God, Ray, man, if you look at us right now, we're just top halves of bodies. So people are used to virtually communicating with one another with just that. When I FaceTime, my mom doesn't set the camera across the room and then talk to me with her legs sticking out. She just has it kind of in front of her face as we chat. So I think that's probably why it lines up for me.
We'll see. I'm interested to see if everybody decides to jump on that bandwagon, or whether different people will be like, now we're putting legs in.
We're putting the legs in. We just set up a random seed for walking gait, and now everybody walks a little different.
I'm walking here.
I'm in the metaverse and I'm walking here.
I'm virtually walking here.
Oh my God. All right, let's move on before we continue down this odd path to another odd path from DARPA. I saw this story fly by and I thought, obviously we have to talk about this.
I see what you did there.
We talk a lot about flyby. We talk a lot about drones on the show, and now it is working on wirelessly charging swarms of drones. So DARPA is known for being the kind of agency behind the creation of lots of incredibly important technology that we have, not just military technology, but oftentimes military need served as the basis for the justification for the expenditures that led to these products that we use today. And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, if you do know for sure, but I'm pretty sure DARPA had something to do financially with the founding of the internet as it is today, correct?
It was created by DARPA, basically, and it was essentially, this was actually a thing that came up recently for political reasons, but in terms of like the government funding scientific research that then leads to things that become more products in consumer and business spaces, because a lot of times the investment that goes in at the beginning is more money than any private company is going to be able to devote to something. So talking about having the government stimulate the technology economy. So DARPA is one of the main places in which that kind of thing happens. And obviously they also have a lot of other applications for these things. But it was the source for the internet.
Yes. And so it's no surprise that we're seeing the agency I keep saying the wrong words there, seeing this agency fund the Seattle-based Electric Sky. So it has received a $225,000 grant as part of DARPA's Small Business Innovation Research Program. And what's happening here is it's working to create the Whisper Beam. The Whisper Beam is a device that does wireless charging in order to help to obviously charge multiple drones. It says, while previous wireless charging for drones has relied on microwaves and lasers that get weaker as they travel over a distance, the Whisper Beam aims to do the opposite and would get stronger as it approaches a receiver. It says Electric Sky reportedly uses a transmitter that sends out radio waves that then focus on the receiver, which of course in this case is the drone. So you can kind of think of it as like, so as something is approaching that it's supposed to be charging, it's like pew, 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 sending out little waves of energy.
Not making that sound.
I hope it does make that sound.
Okay. And you'll always know when your drones are charging, I suppose.
Exactly. Oh, just the drones charging. We're definitely not playing... I don't know. What is that? Mars Attacks? That's not what it's called.
Space Invaders?
Space Invaders. Yeah. Why couldn't I think of that? So, yeah,
Space Invaders, Mars Attacks. Pretty close. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting idea, and I think it makes a lot of sense, obviously, for both DARPA and, more things. I think we talked about wireless power last time I was on, too, in terms of the true sort of delivering power over the air. Drones is a big problem, right? Like, I mean, a lot of times the battery life is limited in terms of how long, consumer drones especially can stay aloft. So if you want to power something with battery and have it stay up there for a while, whether it's for a military usage, for example, or even just a consumer usage, say you're a news station and you've got a drone that has a camera on it, right? And you're covering a breaking news event and you don't want to have to keep being like, I've got 20 minutes on this drone and then I got to recharge it. So it's like refueling an aircraft in midair, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, now Amazon can charge up or Walmart, I think, was the drone delivery we were talking about last time. So make sure that those things remain charged as they're going along. But yeah, it may sound very militaristic right now, but oftentimes this technology rolls its way out into other places. So we may soon see that. And I could see science vessels that are out there doing research, and they need to be out there over time collecting information. To be able to maintain their charge is a good way of doing that. And then, frankly, anything that has to do with true wireless charging, I'm on board. So
yeah, I don't know. It still scares me. I know that to shoot all that power through the air.
I'm ready for the pew-pews in my house.
You can be the test subject. I will be the control for this one.
That works. I wanted to talk about this. This is just a kind of a quick hit from Gizmodo. They ended up sharing this really clever project that I thought, you know what? I love this. I think this would be really neat. A way to kind of step out into the world without actually having to step out into the world, given that we're all stuck at home. This person created a fake window that simulates a live view of a location around them. And instead of just like having a fake window that when you look out, it looks as if you are looking out onto a city, it also includes a very clever mechanism for controlling it. So you don't have to, type in any keyboard or tell, I don't know, ALEXA, I want to travel to here. Instead, there's a map on the wall that has a little airplane magnet that they can move around on the map, and then it will show the way that something looks outside of a window through wherever they have that airplane magnet on the map. This is so cool.
It's cool. That's clever. I remember there at the beginning of the pandemic, there were like websites you could go to where it was like a random view somewhere that people were just sharing, like, here's what the view is out my window. And you could just go to this website and like refresh it and it would show you random ones. But it's a clever sort of hack to put it all together and be able to switch between those different places.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what I love, I didn't see this in the initial when I first saw this story. Shakespeare, which is the person's last name, which is very cool. I believe Alex Shakespeare went as far as to install a thermal camera on the ceiling so that when there's a person standing in front of this window, as the person moves to the left and to the right, back and forward, there's a little bit of sort of a parallax effect so that it feels as if you are, as you're glancing out the window and you move slightly to the left or to the right, it lightly shifts what the person can see as it would actually work in real life. those clever little details is what really takes us to the next level to make that work. So I hope that someone's working on a database of out the window, as you mentioned, even a bigger database, because I think right now it says that Shakespeare has 5 different cities that they can put it on there and be able to see out the window. But it'd be really cool if you started to add more to this and be able to see out the window of a whole bunch of places.
Yeah, that's cool. Very neat.
Let's see. In other very neat news, this one isn't as neat. This one's kind of ridiculous, but I had to mention it because why not? Razer, the company that makes kind of clunky LED. I almost said LGB, but no, LED, although they are rainbow color.
RGB.
RGB, thank you. RGB LED keyboards and mice and all that kind of stuff has created a cooling fan for the iPhone. This is a MagSafe enabled cooling fan, so you can thwack it to the back of your iPhone. You plug it in, and it has the standard LED RGB chroma nonsense, but it is a 7-blade fan with 12 LEDs that you can change the color of, and it helps to cool down your phone. So I guess this is for someone who's shooting, the top quality video that you can shoot ProRes on the iPhone. Because I have had mine heat up a few times shooting video. I guess if you need to have something look cool and stay cool, then you can use Razer's MagSafe cooling fan.
I guess I was talking about this on one of the other shows I do, and I think we discussed like if you were like a hardcore gamer, I guess, on the iPhone, is that a thing? Like, does your iPhone? I guess it could heat up the iPhone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a thing. True. I was more interested in this product when I thought it was one of those fans I could point at myself. Like, it's like on a hot day.
Oh my God, that's what I want. Yes.
Why isn't there one of those? I don't know. That's what I want. I don't need a fan for my phone. I need a phone for me. Fan for me.
Agreed. Now that I think about it, if you are using Safari to play like Xbox Cloud Gaming or the Luna app to play Amazon's Luna and streaming that video, then it could be pretty hard hitting on your battery. I've also played, on the heating of your phone. I've played a few other games, RPGs in particular, that have pretty heavy graphics that have heated up my device before. So that could be one of the times when you would want to cool it down. But yeah, it'd be nice to turn that around and have it blow at you. Doing that with this would be better in the winter because it's blowing the hot air away. So I guess you could do that. It comes in 2 versions. So if you don't have a MagSafe enabled case, then you can also get one that has a universal clamp for your device. So you can do either there. It's silly, but it is. And is for somebody out there, I'm sure. All right, we're going to take another quick break before we come back with the rest of the show. I want to tell you about userway.org, who are bringing you this episode of Smart Tech Today. Userway, honestly, very cool what Userway is doing. Every website, without exception, needs to be accessible because it's a public entity. But more importantly, it's because it's the right thing to do. It is federal ADA law that mandates equal access to services for all Americans. And so you should know you could be liable if your website does not meet ADA laws for accessibility. Userway has an incredible AI-powered solution that tirelessly enforces the hundreds of WCAG guidelines with just one line of JavaScript. Userway can achieve more than an entire team of developers. Userway's AI and machine learning solutions power accessibility for more than 1 million websites, and is trusted by some brands you might be familiar with: Coca-Cola, Disney, eBay, FedEx, and many other leading brands. And now, Userway is making its best-in-class enterprise-level accessibility tools available to small and medium businesses. So when you scale, you need Userway. An accessible and compliant website isn't only the right thing to do, it also just makes plain business sense. The Achilles heel for websites are registration forms, nav menus, and shopping carts that are not accessible. Millions of people will require Userway just to purchase your products. For years, UserWay has been on the cutting edge, creating innovative accessibility technologies that push the envelope of what's possible with AI, with machine learning, and computer vision. UserWay's AI automatically fixes violations at the code level. And if you're curious, here are some of the things that UserWay does. It auto-generates image alts, so that way it can write those image descriptions for you. It remediates complex nav menus and ensures that all pop-ups are accessible. It fixes vague link violations and also fixes any broken links. It also ensures your website makes use of accessible colors while remaining true to your brand. Then it'll give you a detailed report of all the violations that were fixed on your website. So you can say, look at all these things we fixed. Thank you, UserWay. And don't worry if you're coming to the service from a platform that you're going to, is it going to support? UserWay is platform agnostic. Whether you're using WordPress, Shopify, or Wix, UserWay is cost effective and easy to add. And the same goes for AEM, for Sitecore, or SharePoint. UserWay integrates seamlessly with all. So let UserWay help your business meet its compliance goals and improve the experience for your users. Check out the free scanning tool to see if your website is ADA compliant. And just for some added fun, the voice of Siri, who of course is considered the world's most popular voice assistant, has a message about UserWay.
UserWay is trusted by more than 1 million websites and 60 million users with disabilities. Visit userway.org to learn how one line of code can make your website accessible.
Thank you, Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. UserWay can make any website fully accessible and ADA compliant. With UserWay, everyone who visits your site can browse seamlessly and customize it to fit their needs. It's also a perfect way to showcase your brand's commitment to millions of people with disabilities. So go to userway.org/twit and get 30% off UserWay's AI-powered accessibility solution. UserWay, making the internet accessible for everyone. Visit userway.org/twit today. Thank you, UserWay, for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All right, so I realize I'm out of candied yams, which apparently in my strange world you can go and buy at the store. And so I hop in my car and pull out of my garage and start driving down the road and then start playing solitaire. Can you guess what vehicle I'm in? It's a Tesla. So what is he talking about? This is ridiculous. Over the summer, well, I should be clear. Tesla has for a long time had different games that you could play in the Tesla vehicle, as well as different media you could watch. And typically how this was used was while you were parking your car for a charge, it could take up to an hour or more. I don't know how the longest time it can take, but it definitely takes a lot longer than pumping gas. So you need something to do while you're waiting. And Netflix and some other media streamers are available. Games to play are available. And up until this summer, the way to play those games was that the vehicle had to be in park. But an update during the summer made it so that the vehicle did not have to be in park in order to play the games. Instead, you tapped a little button on the screen that says, I'm a passenger, and then you could start playing on the console. I spoke to Sam Abuel-Samid earlier today for Tech News Weekly about this story in the New York Times, and one of the things that he brought up that I hadn't considered is that on top of the fact that, yes, a driver who's bored and is being irresponsible could just choose I'm not a passenger and start playing the game, but in several of the Teslas, and I can't quote if it's all of them, but in several of the Tesla models, that center display is also the instrument cluster. So a driver needs to be able to look at that display regularly to make sure that they're going the proper speed, to see the current charge, all that kind of information. So even if a passenger is playing a game and it's not the driver could very easily get distracted every time the driver needs to look at that display to be able to see their speed and all of that kind of stuff. So the NHTSA, the National Highway Transportation or Traffic Safety Administration, is currently investigating this, and the National Transportation Safety Board has told Tesla, hey, maybe this was not a great thing to do. Tesla did not respond to requests for comment in the article, and I was not surprised. Neither was Sam Abul-Samid about this, given, as he kind of put it, Tesla's maverick nature. It's kind of sort of what you get when you buy a Tesla. You're kind of buying into that whole libertarian mavericky feel. So yeah, I've used, Dan, some infotainment systems in other vehicles that completely locked me out the second the car was out of park or at a complete stop, say at a stoplight or something similar. Do you have in-car infotainment? Do you use any of that?
My car came with a very basic setup, which does do some of that. So, for example, if you want to change any of the settings, it locks that menu while you're moving. So recently, for example, I drove up to Canada and I wanted to change like one of the speedometer readouts to kilometers per hour so I could more easily gauge where I was. And it wouldn't let me do that. I kept forgetting to do it when I stopped. So that was annoying. But I also have a head unit I put in that has CarPlay in it. And that is, I don't think there's much in there that locks out. There may be some setup, like setting stuff, right? Anything you have to sort of peer at for any amount of time rather than just sort of a quick, like, I want to play this or whatever. But yeah, none of that locks out. But I'm also not playing Alto's Adventure while I'm driving around.
Yeah, this just stresses me out. Look, I want to get to a point where self-driving cars are doing all of the driving because it would mean that the fact is, whether you've got a Tesla or you don't have a Tesla, driving by default is a distracted experience unless you're really well trained and have taken lots of classes. There's a number of things that are distracting you. And if we let something completely devote all of its attention to the driving, to the road, that would be awesome, to take it off of us, to not have us worried about that, because we aren't able to focus on some things. We are able to focus on other things. And if there's, 95 cameras that are and sensors all around the device, and also the cars are talking to one another and they're talking to sensors that are built into the highway along the way, all that kind of stuff is going to make for more safety. This is kind of wild. The first 6 months of the year, there were 20,160 deaths from traffic crashes. 20,160 deaths from traffic crashes. That is the highest total deaths since 2006. And so I asked Sam Abul-Samid about that as well and said, why do you think, as a person who's, a car guy, why do you think that this is the case? And he said, well, one thing is that there are fewer people out driving on the road. So people are driving faster. And when you drive faster, then if you do get into some sort of accident, it's a lot worse because you were driving faster. He also said that distracted driving continues to increase even more than it ever has. And this one that I thought was really interesting is that people are moving away from sedans. That's not you, Dan, but sedans, and are moving into bigger vehicles that have less ability to be able to, they have more blind spots is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Sure.
And so those deaths are not often a person crashing into or a car crashing into another car, or a vehicle crashing into another vehicle. But a lot of these deaths are a vehicle crashing into a pedestrian or a biker. And that is because it is becoming more difficult to see these people because of the vehicle changes that people are making into these larger SUVs and trucks and stuff. So I am bullish on self-driving vehicles as the concept of this thing that has all of its attention focused on the road and can see more than a human being can see at a given time. I don't have eyes in the back of my head because I'm not a parent, right? Only parents have eyes in the back of their head. But yeah, that's kind of in the meantime, I don't think that it's a very smart thing for a company to enable, because this is the thing, even if it's not a rule or an official regulation, most other companies have that protection in place that you can't access most of the infotainment system whenever the car is moving. But because it's part of Tesla's culture and, it's sort of that way of doing things, then they, the update gave people this ability as opposed to keeping it really
feels backward, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we spent all this time, and I'm sure, I don't know about California, but if it's anything like Massachusetts, where I live, we have a lot of, the billboards about distracted driving and laws against certain things that you can do while driving your car. You're not supposed to text and drive. I would go from there and be like, oh, if you're not supposed to text and drive, you're probably not supposed to be playing, Halo and driving or something, right? I think it's frankly not just obnoxious, but downright dangerous. And it seems, I don't know. It makes me very uncomfortable. It makes me not feel great about Tesla as a company that they're
I'm looking around,
pushing this, because it's not just about the technology, right? It's about how people use it. And I have to say, I think this is irresponsible on their part. So it's disappointing decision.
Indeed. Speaking of disappointing decisions, there is a very popular app. In fact, I've got to warn some family friends about this situation because I know that they use this with their kids. The app called Life 360, which is a pretty popular third-party app that parents and guardians use, particularly with their kids, to be able to keep track of where their child or perhaps parent, an older adult is, and be able to kind of keep track of the battery life of the device and have that information to make sure that their kids are safe. Life 360 is selling precise location data of its tens of millions of users. Talk about the money that's rolling in. So this is the thing. There are lots of ways that the different apps that we use are collecting data and using that data to inform advertising. But then there are some apps that you may not know are collecting your data in such a way or are selling your data. It's one thing for the app to use this location data itself, but to actually take all of that data that it's using for its own services and sell it is a whole nother story. And they went, I can't remember the exact numbers. I should look into the markup article. It was earlier this week that I was reading this. They went from some rather small amount of $693,000 to $16 million. There it is.
In 4 years. Yeah.
In 4 years, was it revenue or profit?
Yeah, they say made. I will assume that's revenue from that specific stream.
Yeah. So there was a huge jump in the money that they made from specifically selling location data. And there's one quote in this article where the person's like, our whole advertising would not be as profitable as it is if it wasn't for, and they're talking about Life 360 in particular. So this just, what really grinds my gears? This really grinds my gears because of they know what this technology is mostly used for. And I feel like they're taking advantage of people because this is not, what is that? There used to be a pretty popular app that I know some people still use where you go to a location and you check in at that location and then you become the mayor. Foursquare. That is specifically meant for that. But an app that's most of the time for parents and guardians to protect their children or the people that they're looking over, and then to sell all of this data.
Yeah, it's certainly at odds with the stated goal that you're sort of selling here as a product, right? Like if you're like, we want to give you peace of mind, but we're also going to then take all that money, all that information, and turn around and sell it. Like, I understand exactly the motivation that makes a company do this, right? Like they look at it and say, oh, why aren't we selling it? We've got all this valuable information. Why aren't we selling it? But it does feel very much like you are betraying the trust of the people who have purchased this product to give themselves peace of mind. And then I'm sure you were going to mention at some point, like this company is also planning to buy Tile, which is a popular tracking fob maker. And I'm sure that even though they've said they don't plan to sell data from Tile devices, I don't think that's going to last if, again, it turns out like, look at all this additional information we have for location information. Let's sell this too. So I think it is, again, a disappointing decision that is focused more on the revenue streams than on the actual product these people have created.
More like a Life 180.
Oh, my God. Oh, boy. Yeah, so I am, I collected the sort of tidbits of this to make sure that I can tell the people that I know that use this app, hey, here's what you need to know about this. Here's what's happening. And you should be very aware about your information in particular being sold to not even just the highest bidder, but basically to anybody who wants to buy it. It's kind of how this comes out. They do talk about how they anonymize the data in some cases, but then they also talk about how they leave it up to the customer, the person that they are selling to anonymize the data. So it's like, here, you can buy this, but now don't you keep that data without anonymizing it. That's not how things should be going. Yeah. All right. Let's move into our last bit of news here before we round out the show. Our last bit of news next, and then we will go for our picks of the week. The first bit of news is a little bit about Apple Wallet. We heard that Apple was going to continue adding to its kind of pass booklet, its wallet app, to give more access, first in cars with Car Key. In some cases, there are universities and colleges that have the ability to add a card, the student ID, digitally. And now Apple and Hyatt are working together to roll out hotel keys with Apple Wallet. So soon you'll be able to use your phone or your Apple Watch to be able to access your room. I have to say I'm pretty excited about this. It's been a long time since I've stayed in a hotel, but one thing that I'm always paranoid about is remembering to grab the hotel key before I leave. I almost always, even if I don't forget it, I'm just going, oh my goodness, don't forget. And then the bigger thing is remembering the room number, because I will grab the keys, but then I'll forget which room is mine. And so then I'm going to the place where I was and I'm going, okay, is this just very quietly sliding the card in, hoping that the person isn't inside. And then I find my right door and I'm like, oh man, I gotta write that down.
Turns out you're in the wrong hotel.
Exactly. How did I end up here? So this is exciting for multiple reasons, but mostly again, to quell the anxiety I have about forgetting my key to the hotel room.
The problem I always ran into was like the keys would stop working every once in a while. I think I found that like it used to happen a lot more, I think, with like the magnetic swipe ones. But even the ones, because they would get demagnetized and they would have to go like you take them down the front desk and get them refixed and et cetera. I think it happens less with the new ones, which are all like RFID or NFC or something. But yeah, it seems clever. I like the idea of putting that on my watch and just having it automatically managed for me, especially on my Apple Watch. Like I think for me, that is the key thing, right? Because I don't even want to have to dig out my phone really. I just want to be able to bring up my watch and like wipe my hand at the door and just be like, okay, I'm in, right? Like that's nice. Yeah, I agree. And then the other bit of Apple news that I wanted to talk about here was Apple's upcoming augmented reality headset. The latest rumors suggest it's going to feature multiple sensors. I think it's 4 sensors that will give the headset the ability to yes, this include multiple highly sensitive 3D sensing modules in order to do a very good job of hand detection and object detection. So this is a big thing because right now, and this is something that Meta is regularly working on with the Oculus Quest 2. There are always improvements to its hand tracking, because putting on a headset and also then having to put your hands in a certain way and hold on to these controllers, all the friction that you add, all of the distance that you add between you and this virtual space is
less of a way to feel, or it adds to the disconnect that you have. And so the more you can just be you, yeah, exactly, the immersion, thank you. The more that you can just be you, the more immersive the experience becomes. And so I'm not surprised to hear that they are really trying to nail the hand gesture and hand detection and then object detection so that it's really kind of sharp and clean and clear.
It's a very Apple-like approach, right? Because I cannot imagine Apple going into like, well, you got to hold this controller, or you got to use this device, or you got to use your phone or whatever. Like they don't. That's not a story they want to tell. The story they want to tell is something that works very seamlessly with the abilities that you already have. And I think integrating that to, as you said, remove barriers between you and the experience is what's going to help sell that as an experience and sort of maybe convince other people that this is something they actually want to do, right? Like, there's some comparisons to things like, the Animoji and Memoji features in FaceTime, and the fact that you don't really need to do anything specific to make them work. Like, it's all very seamless. Like, it's a very Apple-like trademark.
Indeed. I'm looking forward to seeing when. Apparently, we'll be seeing the first generation of this device in the coming year. We'll see, but I am looking forward to that as well. All righty, folks. It is time to move into the last segment of the show, which which are our picks of the week. Dan Morin, tell us about your pick of the week.
All right, so I've got a lot of smart home tech, but I ran into an issue that I think probably most people who have done some smart lighting have run into. In the overhead lights here in my office, I've got a ceiling fan, and it's just got standard places to put in normal bulbs. So I put in a bunch of Hue bulbs that I have. And I was like, great, I can control these remotely on my phone now. I can change the colors in here. This is great. I use the Home app, and it's got HomeKit support and all that. However, because it's an overhead light, it, of course, has a wall switch. And as anybody who's ever dealt with this knows, well, the problem is if you turn the light off from the wall switch, you can no longer control it with your phone. That's a real pain, right? So I ended up using a Hue dimmer switch to basically control it, and I magneted it to the file cabinet that's down to my left here. But even there, I would have to sort of stumble in the dark and try to find the switch, right? And it's well, wouldn't it be convenient if they located it someplace nice, like the wall? So I stumbled across this product, which is pretty cool, from the people at Lutron, who make a lot of smart switches, called the Lutron Aurora. This is specifically designed to work with Hue bulbs. And essentially, it's a thing that just screws on to your standard light switch, and it looks like a standard dimmer dial switch, and it controls the Hue lights. So it dims them, it turns them on and off, and because it's a sort of just a click button that you can hit, it works in sync with the stuff in your smart home controls. So there's no problem with I accidentally turned the light off. It doesn't matter. It's always the same. So I can turn the light off from my phone and then turn it on from the wall switch. I can do vice versa. It works seamlessly, and it's $30. So for me, I was that is an instant buy. I set it up several weeks ago. I've been using it, and I absolutely love it. It is just a great little feature, and it works with any standard sort of I think what they call them, a single pole light switch, the standard old style light flick. You can just screw it right on there. So it's very clever. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a clever idea in a way to, again, kind of bridge the gap between two systems that otherwise would kind of keep people from adopting the smart tech, especially for folks who are maybe not super into smart tech. This helps.
It was super easy to set up and install, and yeah, it's we've all seen the unsightly taped over switches. Don't touch this switch.
Yeah, exactly. With a horrible scrawled sign on it.
Exactly, avoids that terrible problem.
Yeah, and not too much money, which is always nice. $30.99. Yeah. My pick of the week is one that I've shared before on iOS Today, but I just had to give it another shout out because when I shared it on iOS Today, a lot of people were like, oh my God, I'm getting one of these as a gift for a family member. This is such a perfect gift idea. And this is an odd way to sort of justify it, but I will say it costs enough that it can be a main gift instead of just a sort of stocking stuffer. And I'll explain in a minute kind of the cost and everything. But this is the Anker magnetic charging station. And what you get a nice long cord that plugs into the wall. And on the back, you have 3 standard AC, grounded AC plugs. So you can plug in 3 different devices. They can be, direct, or you can plug in a charging block if you want to. But you don't really need to plug in a charging block, because right below those 3 AC plugs are 2 USB-C IQ charging ports and 2 USB-A IQ charging ports. This thing is also grounded and you're grounded and has surge protection. So it has all of that built in. So it's a surge protector, it's grounded, and it has all of those 4 ports. But then when you turn it around to the front side, you'll notice this sort of angled surface. That is because it has a series of magnets inside, so that you can take your phone and your iPhone and thwack it to the front of it, and then it charges your phone. So you set this on your desk with the front MagSafe or magnetic charger facing towards you, and the other ports and plugs facing away from you. And then it sits on your desk. You've got a nice desk mount for your phone to charge it during the day, then also be able to see what's happening on the phone because it's got that great angle. And then on the back, all of the things that you want to charge can come right through there and sit on your desk or sit beside your desk instead of having to be plugged in kind of under the table or wherever that might be. That's what I'm used to doing. On the bottom, it has a nice non-stick grippy pad. There's a light, an LED light on the side that's the indicator for charging with that magnetic charger on the front. And yeah, it comes in a few colors. This is just the standard gray color, but there's also a sort of sky blue and a white version. It is $99.99, so $100, which is pretty expensive, but you are paying for a surge protector. You're paying for 3 points of AC charging, 4 ports for USB-C / USB-A charging, and that magnetic charging system in the front. All of this, it's a huge charging / power device that sits so nicely on the corner of your desk and can do all of those things for you. I just have to give a round of applause to the folks at Anker for making this in particular, because it's just so clever. It's such a well thought out device that just, it's got all of the ports and plugs that I could want, and then it can be the one sort of surge protector that you have near your desk, perhaps, depending on what you have. So yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I think it would make a great gift for anybody who works in an office or works at a desk, or any techie in your life who, they usually buy all of their own devices. So you're like, what do I get them? This would be a great present for them, I think. So yeah, shout out to Anker for making this. I just think it's such a clever thing. And I know a number of people who, after I talked about it, were like, I am ordering 4 of them for different people. So Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. All right. That officially brings us to the end of this episode of Smart Tech Today. I would like to tell you that if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, etc., you can send those to stt@twit.tv. You can check out the show live by going to twit.tv/live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, sometimes 2 p.m. Pacific. But the best way to get the show is by subscribing to the show, which you can do by going to twit.tv/STT and clicking to subscribe to either audio or video. And you just choose your platform that you are listening through, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So we are in all of those places that you listen. And if you'd like to get this show and other shows ad-free, well, you should check out Club Twit. Because for $7 a month, you can get every single Twitch show with no ads. You also get access to the exclusive Twit Plus bonus feed that has content you won't find elsewhere. It's got behind the scenes, before the show, after show, all sorts of good stuff, and access to the members-only Discord server. if you're going, what the heck is a Discord server? Well, if you've ever used Microsoft Teams or Slack, then you'll be familiar with Discord because it works a lot like that. It's a place to chat with others in sort of these different pages that are specific to a category. And so you'll get to hang out with your fellow Club Twit members, but also those of us here at Twit also hang out there. So it's a great place to be. And we've got Aunt Pruitt, who is always bringing new content there, including just recently an AMA with Mary Jo Foley, which was fantastic. If all that sounds good to you, twit.tv/clubtwit to check it out. And hey, the holidays are coming up. If you are a company, and well, you yourself are probably not a company, but if you work for a company and you would like to give the gift of Twit, we just had a corporate buy recently. I think it was like 300 Club Twit purchases. And so the company wanted to give their employees at this tech company the whole of Club Twit. And so that was super awesome. You can do that too. You'll get, of course, the discount for being part of the group plan. You just, again, head to twit.tv/clubtwit. You can check out the corporate plan and buy some Club Twit seats for your employees. It's a great way to keep them up to date on the news in tech and skip over those ads that are in between. Dan Moren, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the work you're doing, where do they go to do so?
So many places. Micah, I'm on Twitter at dmoren. You can also find my website over at dmoren.com, which has not only my podcasts and my tech writing, but also my novels. The newest one comes out next July, The Nova Incident, and you can pre-order it now, including signed paperback copies. I'll write basically whatever you want in them, so use that power wisely. Of course, I host Clockwise with Micah over at Relay.fm. You can find us there every Wednesday around noon Eastern. And yeah, that's where I am. Everywhere you want to be.
He's everywhere you want to be. I am at Micah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. That's the best way to find me there. I think that brings us to the end, truly, of this episode. So all that's left is to say good afternoon, or perhaps happy holidays to our smart assistants. Goodbye for now, and thank you for joining us, Dan.
Thank you.
Android is constantly evolving, and if you're part of the Android faithful, then you'll be just as excited about it as I am. I'm Jason Howell, host of All About Android, along with my co-hosts Florence Ion and Ron Richards, where every week we cover the news, we cover the hardware, and we cover the apps that are driving the Android ecosystem. Plus, we invite people who are writing about Android, talking about Android, and making Android onto the show. Every Tuesday at twit.tv, look for All About Android.